I'm the solo developer behind an unannounced cave exploration game. I won't talk anything about the game itself in this video. I will rather talk about the new technology I'm developing for it. I can tell you this though, I'm a caver myself. I do what's called dry caving. That's when you explore the caves above the waterline. For the record, not really dry. And then, the past several years, I'm also a certified cave diver. Most of you probably found this channel for the technical stuff I posted about. But if you're here for the cave game itself, fantastic! That means the world to me. But please have some patience. In the meantime, you can be relaxed that I'm building this game from the ground up to represent caves in the absolutely right way. As a caver, I really care about realism. Let's be honest though. In a cave, just about everything you're gonna see is cave walls and cave floors. And mud. Let's not forget about the mud. That might sound simple to make, but when that's all you see, it just has to look really, really good and interesting. In real caves, you actually see a lot of variation and complexity in the shapes, formations and materials. It can look incredibly beautiful, way, way beyond what any game have been able to capture so far. I have considered using nanite and kit bashing the caves together, and that will probably work well if you have the models to make it enough varied. But nanite is unfortunately only available in Unreal. And since all of my experience sits in Unity, I started thinking about what the best custom solution would look like. My final goal is to use rough scans of real caves as a basis for the levels. So I imagined a system with a low resolution mesh that you treat as though it was clay. Then picture taking a set of textured stamps and press them onto the clay model. With a solution like this, you could get a lot of variation out from each stamp. You could rotate it, scale it, and blend it with other stamps. You could probably even do some procedural details. So I started scanning the web and researching if anyone had done something similar. I can't find anything really. The closest I've seen are two voxel systems using triplanar sampling, including a displacement map. And while it gives a similar look as my system, it has other benefits and drawbacks. So, I've taken the liberty of calling the technique CLOD, Canvas Level of Detail Rendering. Now, what the heck is that supposed to mean? It means that you take every surface of a mesh and turn it into a drawable surface. Turning every surface in a large level would take up massive amounts of memory though. So, the canvases are assigned to a virtual texture that scale up and down in resolution depending on visibility. Hence, the level of detail part. The pipeline can be broken down into 4 steps: voxel mesh generation, unwrapping, stamp rendering, and the final frame rendering. The voxel mesh generation is fairly standard. I use naive surface nets to create a mesh from voxels stored as a SDF, also known as signed distance field. The only non-standard part of the process is that I calculate a lookup table for neighbors of each quad. This is helpful in the next step. To make the mesh surfaces drawable on a texture, you need to perform a UV unwrap. This means that you have to project every vertex onto a flat plane in such a manner that it doesn't intersect itself. This is not a straightforward thing to do, and is usually made with manual oversight by artists to achieve optimal results. In my case, the model is separated into multiple patches, as I call them, where each patch have their own UV space. This problem had me reading a lot of papers, and eventually, thanks to a video by Ministry of Flat, I put the link in the description, I came up with a very fast solution. The speed is further helped by the choice of voxel mesh. Since I use naive surface nets instead of marching cubes, the mesh is composed of quads rather than n-gons. It helps keeping the algorithm consistent and simple. So it goes like this. Randomize a set of start quads and then unfold quad after quad. Since every quad have their neighbors cached, essentially what I have is a graph, and the algorithm is a flood fill search. In the unfold, I calculate the angles of the quad compared to the base edge and project the same angle on the flat UV plane. I try to retain angles and distances as much as possible. When I unfold an already unfolded edge, I average their previous results with a new one. When the UVs stretch and distorts too much compared to the quad's actual length, I stop the process. I also stop the process after a maximum amount of iterations, and this helps balancing the extent of the patches. The randomized positions are not enough to make sure every quad is visited, so afterwards I try to infill the unvisited quads with new patches. At this point, I generate a skirt around the edges of every patch. This is to avoid seams at a later step. I also calculate a Boolean map for occupancy to avoid allocating texture space for empty areas. The patches don't exactly come out clean and square. Every patch is then scaled to fit in a sort of gallery. This is the UV space of our virtual texture. And so the patches are now prepared to be textured. Next up is the virtual texture step. It is triggered whenever the preferred resolution of a patch is changed. Normally, with a virtual texture, this would happen as you've finished streaming a texture from the disk, and the only step here is to copy it into the tiles of the physical texture. This step has instead been replaced with a process of rendering the stamps. Every patch keeps track of which stamp they are affected by, and are all sent into the same Blitz shader. A stamp consists of 5 textures: albedo, displacement, roughness, ambient occlusion, and a normal map. These are packed into 2 textures, albedo and displacement in one, and the rest in the other. A stamp also has a position, scale, radius, and direction. This information is used to calculate how it is projected onto the patch. The projection data is sent into the shader as transformation matrices. The shader is rendered in the patch's UV space. So in the vertex shader, I do a little switcheroo. The UV coordinates are instead used as the clip position, and the vertex position and normal is instead used to sample against the stamp transformations. In the fragment shader, I first calculate which displacement wins out, and subsequently sample the remaining textures from that winning stamp. Then I do a recalculation of normals, since they can be rotated and scaled by the projection. The freshly rendered patch is divided into tiles and is then transferred into the physical texture. The final step is the frame rendering itself. For this I use an ordinary run-of-the-mill PBR shader with the tessellation displacement. Each tessellated triangle is offset using the displacement map from the stamps. In the fragment shader, I just sample the 2 packed textures. Nothing special really, but that's the strength to this technique. I sample only 2 textures, and that gives me everything I need. And if I want more effects, like blending or noise or color rotation, etc., I can do that in the stamp rendering itself and save all of that computation from the frame. Now, there are of course some more effects I would like to do in the tessellated shader itself, like dripping water streams and sparkly surfaces. That's also seen in caves. But I think I can still do that with the current texture budget. For instance, I could allocate the values over a certain threshold in the ambient occlusion map for sparkly surfaces, because that will never be seen in the dark areas. And for the dripping water effect, I can use the roughness map in the same way. Anyway, it's really fast to render this, and the tessellation density can be adjusted after the performance of the machine you're running it on. I'm currently recording this on my MacBook Pro M1 from 2021, and it runs well above 60 FPS. Well above 60 FPS. Now, at this stage, it is merely a proof of concept. There's a lot of things I still need to work on. For instance, Right now, the mesh is only generated for a 32 by 32 by 32 chunk, so I need to add support for multiple chunks. The unwrapping process is not watertight, and it can unwrap into a broken mess sometimes. I also need to optimize the virtual texture with feedback rendering, and so on. I've been prepared to strike a wall of a problem that makes this whole pipeline unusable, but that hasn't happened yet. So far it only shows promise. I'm really surprised that nobody has tried this before. Of course, it's really tailored for caves. It's mostly suitable for organic shapes, like terrain. The rendering is nearing completion to where I need it at the current step. The next step is to work on the collision and to crank it up into the same level of resolution as the rendering. That will be worth a video on its own. I hope this weird mix of caving and game dev technology has been an interesting peek into my work, and has inspired you. Let me know what you think about the pipeline. I have a lot of years of experience as a game developer, but render tech is quite a new area for me, I have to say. If you can point out something strange I say, or have some interesting insight, feel free to reach out. Also, let me know what you think about the video presentation itself. This is really an experiment from my side, and I have no idea what I'm doing, but I do hope to make more of it in the future. If you would like to see more content like this, please consider subscribing. And if you want to see this cave game come to life, please consider spreading the word about it. Increasing my following can really help me make some critical decisions up ahead. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one, and stay tuned for the next update. Bye!